Hello.
Oh, hey. How are you?
Yes, I'm fine. Thank you. Thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's good to talk to you. I'm glad you're available. I didn't know if you would be available or not. I know I messaged you on short notice.
Sorry, I had lessons in a speaking club.
So, what is the speaking club? How do they do the lessons? I'm curious.
They use Zoom platform.
Is it like a group class and everybody just talks randomly or do they have a topic? How do they manage the topic and the discussion?
Mhm. We usually have topics and for every lesson, and we have about maybe 15 peoples in the group,
Mhm.
and they divide us into groups, and they put us into the breakouts rooms, and we have only one or two speaking partners there. They sent us questions about this topic and a vocabulary list, and we discuss this topic with our speaking partners, and then they give us about 10 minutes, and then we get back to the main room, and then they give us the next part of questions. They call it speaking workouts, but before we had classic clubs, and it was the same, but all people was in the same room, and we had about eight participants in
Which do you
such.
like better? Do you like the smaller group discussions or do you like discussing with the bigger group?
I like workouts when you have only one or two speaking partners, because it gives you more opportunity to practice
Right. Okay.
speaking.
Are there teachers actually giving you feedback during that time or are you just practicing?
They usually write all corrections in the chat.
Okay, that's
Uh,
nice.
they they don't correct us, but sometimes they do. But they usually don't want to break our conversation.
Right. Well, the reason I wanted to talk to you is because I know you're a very serious English learner. I think more serious than a lot of people, and I think people can benefit from some of the things that you think are useful and some of the things that you think are not. So my question is, what things have you found, either apps or techniques have you found that really work for you, and what things are maybe a waste of time that maybe people spend time on but they shouldn't, based on your
Mhm.
experience?
Yes, okay. I think that if you want to practice spoken English, you should participate in speaking clubs, because I could not speak English at all before I joined speaking club. And if you want to practice writing, I think it is the better to make English speaking friends, and uh, to communicate with them as much as you can. For example, I have a Chinese friend who corrected my letters. And it helped me a lot, because before I started to communicate with my friends, I could not write even one sentence without a translator.
Right. Okay. Well, that's
So,
great progress
yeah,
then. What about okay? So that's the useful thing is practicing, getting in the
yeah,
getting into it without fear, right? Um,
yeah.
Building confidence. What about things that have you tried certain things that you feel now were a waste of time? In other words, things that people use or try regularly to improve English that didn't help, that you thought, don't do that.
Yeah, I think that when you already know, like, base of grammar, you should not learn it hard. You should have more practice, because I think it is a waste of time to learn grammar without practice.
I agree with that 100%. Yeah, totally right.
Yes.
I agree. I mean, some people I think feel really comfortable. Say, oh, I can sit here and learn grammar, but that's not really pushing yourself to improve. You're not really doing the hard work, which is fear of communicating with others. The speaking clubs is something that can be scary to a lot of people. to a lot of learners.
Yes, I was very afraid to do it at the first time, and I forced myself to join this speaking club. And I am so grateful to this speaking club because I lost my fear to speak with people
But
in English.
how do you get over that? Because that's the hard part for so many people, is that initial, that very beginning, that wall. How do people get over the wall for the first time? The people who are afraid to speak, how do you break through it for the first time? Once you do, it gets a lot easier. But do you need a couple glasses of red wine? What's the? How do you do it?
No, no. You just need to get out of your comfort zone, and you just need to force yourself to do it. But
Yeah.
in some time you will enjoy it, and because it will be like your hobby. And I could not imagine now how I would live without communicating with people in English every day.
Yeah.
And I want to say that I think that very useful to listen to something in English every day and as much as you can. For example, I use every single moment for listening. For example, when I do my housework, I always listen to something in English.
That's
And
good.
when I am on my way to work and home, I also listen to something.
What about when you so a lot of the time when you're listening to something, there will be things that you might not understand, maybe cultural references. Do you just say, well, it's okay if I don't understand everything? Do you research things afterward, or do you just want to have that in the background to sort of absorb over time for listening?
I started from simple audios. For example, I listened to fairy tales at first,
Oh,
but then, yeah,
that's cool.
but then I started to listen to your courses, and it was so good for listening too. And you just need to choose something that you understand, maybe 90%.
Right. If it's 100%, it's too easy, right? Then you're not
Yeah.
challenging yourself. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, really, the last question I wanted to ask you is,
Mhm.
in terms of resources, whether that's apps or other resources, what are your favorites? Which ones do you use? Which ones do you like to use most?
I like app which is called Elsa Speak,
Elsa
and
Speak.
I
Yeah.
think it
Is
is
that
Elsa Speak. Yeah,
ELSA Speak, right?
maybe, but they call it Elsa.
Okay.
Elsa.
Okay.
And this app is so good for improving pronunciation because it shows every single sound which you pronounce, and it shows you your progress. So I think it is very useful.
One thing that I saw
And
that you said in the chat is you should only use it on advanced level. Why is that?
yes, because when you use common level, it says that you say everything perfectly.
Yeah.
But when you use advanced level,
Yeah.
it shows your problems
Yeah.
with each sound. And I was really surprised that this app can analyze your pronunciation
Yeah.
and shows you all your problems. And they made offer because of coronavirus, and now they give students opportunity to use it for free.
That's
Even
cool.
VIP,
VIP?
VIPs,
Yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah, for free.
That's good for people to know. So I guess they can just Google Elsa Speak and access it. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. There was one question in the chat just as we were talking, similar to what you said before. This is really the last question. Rolfie says, can you ask her how she manages stress and nervousness while speaking? So not just jumping over the confidence part, but while you're speaking, some people feel they get so nervous they have to stop speaking. How do you manage that? Because just in this conversation that we're having, you sound very clear about what you want to say. You sound quite confident, and you don't seem like any nervousness is getting in your way. But that's hard to do for a lot of learners.
It was very hard for me too, because I am a shy person, and I had problems with self-esteem and self-worth, so it was even harder for me.
Yeah.
But I understood that it is time to start to stop make excuses, because I said before that I don't have opportunities to speak out loud because someone can hear me. Uh, I I think that at first you can't speak confidently, but it comes with time. You
Yeah.
need just practice as much as you can. At first you will stop, and you should not be afraid to make mistakes,
Yeah.
because all people make mistakes, and it is how they learn.
It's an interesting balance of, number one, being aware of mistakes, but at the same time not being afraid to make them. In other words, you have to be able to notice when mistakes happen, but you shouldn't be so afraid to speak that you're not willing to make one, right? It's good to make mistakes, but when they happen, it's good to also be able to say, "Oh, did I say that? Oh, oops," and make self-corrections, right?
And I can say that no one will laugh at you. No one. I didn't meet even one person who would make fun on you.
Yeah.
Because of your mistakes, so you should not be afraid of it. And
Yeah.
it is problem of Russians learners, because we are too shy to practice
It's not,
speaking.
well, I can say for sure, because I've taught a lot of students from a lot of different places. It's not just Russia. It's everywhere. Everybody has, and it's reasonable. You don't want to look silly, but it's a fact. Nobody's going home and thinking, "Oh, that silly person I heard make a mistake today." People, when they're talking to others, they're thinking about themselves. How do I look? Do I look silly? They're not worried about other people's mistakes. I promise. Nobody cares.
But I can say that I will not watch this video, because I don't like.
I think
don't
you're
like
doing a great
hear
job. You're doing such a great job. I mean, it's a very natural conversation we're having, and it's been very nice talking with you. Before we end this interview, first, thank you for doing it, because I think
Thank you
it's
so much for giving me such opportunity to talk with you and with all people who hear us.
well, thank you for joining, because I think having your perspective as an English learner is in many ways better than mine, because you have gone through this yourself, right? You've been through this process. And so it's a very valuable perspective for people to have. So I really appreciate you that you're willing to do this, and that you have the confidence to do it. You're showing others that it's certainly possible. You said you used to not be able to speak without a translator, and now you're able to have fluent conversation and a very natural and organic conversation, which is absolutely great. So you've made amazing progress. Is there anything else that you want to share or mention that other students should know before we...
Yes. I want to tell everyone, use Luke's courses, because they are great. I love them so much, and I have 10 of them, and they are really amazing, and they helped me a lot. So guys, please buy Luke's courses.
Well, thank you for saying that.
They will help you a lot.
I would just like to say that I did not ask Luba to say that just now, and that's a...
No. I do it by myself.
You're making me turn red. I'm turning as red as a tomato.
No, it is true. It is truth.
Well, thank you so much. That really means a lot to me. I appreciate it, and hopefully we'll be able.
Thank you, Luke.
Well, I hope we can
Thank
do
you.
another one of these
I
discussions in the future. It'd be cool.
I appreciate your help so much. Thank you.
Yeah. Well,
goodbye.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Really, thank you so much. See ya.
Yes, thank you. See you.
All right. That was awesome. That was so cool. She has, I think, she serves as a great example of what it means, especially in terms of attitude, right? So, and I've talked with her about this before we did this discussion, but she is able to take English learning as a lifestyle, what a lot of people do is that they'll say, all right, I got 30 minutes, I got to learn for 30 minutes, and get it over with. But that's actually okay, but not the ideal situation. If you can, it's obviously much better to make it part of your lifestyle, which is obviously what Luba has done. She has made it part of her lifestyle. She has a long commute. When she commutes, she's always listening to stuff. She's always learning stuff. She is now not afraid to speak to anybody and say what she thinks and express herself. You could see that clearly. But she used to be, right? She broke through that sort of confidence barrier and is sort of proof that, yes, you can do it. Anybody can do it. She said, you heard her, she was a shy person. She is sometimes a shy person, but just forced herself to start. And once you get started, it builds into a kind of what's called a snowball effect, right? The little snowball starts rolling down the hill, but once the snowball starts rolling down the hill, it gets bigger and bigger, and it rolls more and more easily. So once you break through that initial, I don't know what to say, what do I say, I have nothing to say, I'm scared. Once you break through that feeling, then it gets easier and easier. And as you practice, you build actual habit patterns in your brain. Your brain is physically changing to get used to the feeling of expressing yourself. And once you get used to that, then the nervousness goes away. As all of this happens, as you get more comfortable in the language, as you start to sort of feel confident over time, then all of that stuff that you studied begins to come to you more easily. It's almost like shyness, nervousness, a lack of confidence are barriers that keep the things that you've learned all your life, the English stuff you've learned, away, right? Because you're so nervous, you can't receive the bank of words that's there. Right? But if you feel relaxed, if you feel comfortable, all of the words that you need are going to come to you quite easily. And so it's really just a matter of breaking through that barrier. It's a matter of getting through to a place of comfort. And it takes work, it takes practice, but it's possible for everybody. So don't say that you're too shy. Don't say that you can't. Don't say that you don't have confidence. Don't say that you're nervous. It's all excuses. You've decided that. You're the one who said that you're too shy. You're not. Well, you don't have to be. You can decide to try. You can decide to do your best, and you will see the rewards. As I mentioned, confidence is a part of especially spoken fluency. So that was fun.